I moved to my new home about 3 weeks ago. I thought it would be a fresh start after my breakup. The neighborhood looked peaceful. Everyone waved when I walked by. I felt hopeful, but I never expected what I would face. It began the first night. I heard faint knocks coming from the wall. I dismissed it as my new neighbor adjusting things. It didn't bother me much then. I drifted off to sleep. As the days passed, the knocks changed. They turned into whispers. I swear I could hear soft voices chatting away. I felt uneasy, but told myself it was my mind playing tricks. I had just moved after all. The stress was getting to me. Then one night, I heard a loud thud. My heart raced. I glanced out the window, and that's when I saw my neighbor. They stood in their yard staring at me. I couldn't see their face too well, but I felt their eyes on me, cold and unyielding. I shut the curtain quickly, feeling a chill run down my spine. The following nights were even stranger. I saw shadows moving behind their curtains, flickering like candlelight. Laughter echoed in the stillness of the night. It felt wrong. It didn't sound like happy laughter. It sounded darker, almost sinister, as if it was meant just for me. One evening I sat on my porch trying to relax. I saw my neighbor again, standing outside at odd hours. I felt an urge to say hello, but something held me back. I looked away, but then I felt their gaze pierce through me again. My heart pounded, and I hurried inside. I told myself I was overreacting. I had to be. The whispers and laughter mixed with my loneliness. It was just me being paranoid. But I couldn't shake the feeling. I wanted to look away from their windows, but found my eyes drawn there repeatedly. One night, I woke up to laughter again. It felt even closer this time. I sat up, frozen in fear. Suddenly it stopped. An icy shiver crept down my back. Then came the knock. It came gently at first, but it grew louder. I couldn't breathe. I listened intently. My heart raced as a voice whispered, "It's always watching." Panic surged through me. I turned on my lamp, gasping. My mind buzzed with confusion. I wanted to escape, but I felt trapped. Were they really watching me? I stared at the wall, dread curling in my stomach. I thought about my fresh start. I thought about moving again. In the days following, I noticed the neighborhood felt different. The smiles of my neighbors seemed forced. I watched them whisper to each other, glancing my way. Was I losing my mind? Or was something truly sinister lurking behind those walls? I still can't shake what happened. I don't know what was real or what was just my imagination. But I do know I shouldn't have moved here. Now every sound sends a rush of fear through me. I feel like I'm still being watched. The following days dragged on. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside felt like a warning. I decided to take a break and visit a nearby cafe, hoping to find some comfort in the bustle of life outside my home. As I sat at a small table, nursing a lukewarm coffee, I overheard a few women chatting nearby. They seemed friendly enough, laughing and sharing stories. I felt a momentary relief. Maybe I could blend in, maybe even make a friend. But as I listened, I picked up snippets of their conversation. "New girl down the street," one of them said with a knowing tone. "I hope she knows what she's gotten into." I felt my stomach drop. It was as if they were talking about me, but they didn't seem to have friendly intentions. When I returned home, I felt restless. The shadows behind my neighbor's curtains seemed to dance more violently that night. I tried to ignore it, but the more I did, the stronger my anxiety grew. I reminded myself of their laughter, sharp and chilling, filling the air even now. That night, as I lay awake, I heard the knocks again, rhythmic and persistent. They were coming from the wall on my left, and it sounded more like a code than an accident. My heart raced as I listened. Carefully, I pressed my ear against the wall. Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, ringing bitterly in my ears. I recoiled and stumbled backward, I wanted to scream, to run outside and escape, but my legs wouldn't move. It felt like something was holding me back, tightening around my chest. After a moment, I gathered the courage to tiptoe to the window. Peering through the curtains, I expected to see nothing. But there stood my neighbor, their silhouette stark against the night sky. They weren't alone. A group of figures was gathered around, whispering and pointing at my house. I ducked instinctively, sinking down into the shadow of my room. They couldn't know I was watching. My pulse pounded in my ears. What were they planning? I knew I had to confront my fears, but I didn't know how to start. The next day, I found myself pacing my living room. I needed answers. I resolved to speak to the neighbor. I took a deep breath, recalled their presence in the yard, and steeled myself. I walked to their front door, heart racing in my chest. I knocked, the sound too loud in the stillness. The seconds felt like hours until I heard the faint shuffle of footsteps on the other side. The door creaked open, and there they were. The figure stared back at me, shadowed face vague but eyes glimmering with an unsettling light. "Can I help you?" Their voice was smooth, but had that undertone of something hidden. I felt sweat trickling down my back. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could, they leaned slightly forward. "You shouldn't have come here, you know." My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to retreat, but something drew me closer. As I prepared to ask about the sounds, the sky darkened and the wind howled around us. That's when I noticed the flickering lights in their house. They looked alive, almost beckoning. And just like that, everything went dark. I woke up on the floor of my living room, disoriented and gasping for air. The dark, heavy silence enveloped me. Confused, I blinked against the bright afternoon sunlight filtering through the window. How much time had passed? I felt like I'd been pulled from a dream, but it was all too real. The memories of the night flooded back, chilling me to the bone. I staggered to my feet, my heart pounding as I recalled the flickering lights and my neighbor's ominous warning. Something about them felt off, and the sense of dread nipped at my heels. I needed to act. I peeked through the curtains, half afraid of what I might see. The street was quiet. The only movement was a squirrel scurrying across the pavement. But something was different. The neighbor's house, which had been so dark last night, now glowed even more disturbingly under the sunlight. I hesitated. Did I dare knock again? I felt a rush of panic uncoil inside me. Then, gathering my nerves, I decided I had to know what was happening. I stepped outside, each footfall echoing too loud in the stillness. As I approached their front door, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced back, half expecting to see the familiar faces of the women from the cafe peering from behind their curtains. But there was only emptiness. I raised my hand, fingers trembling as I knocked. This time, the door swung open almost instantly. The same figure stood there, but now they looked less ominous in the light. Their expression was neutral, but I sensed an underlying tension. "Back again, are we?" they asked, tilting their head slightly. I felt a chill at the casualness of their tone. "I need to know what's going on," I said, trying to sound assertive but feeling weak. "I heard noises in the night and—" "It wasn't meant for you." Their tone sharpened. "You should leave things alone. Curiosity can be dangerous here." My stomach dropped. What did that mean? "What is going on?" I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. Before they could answer, there was a rustle in the bushes behind me. I turned quickly, the movement catching me off guard. My eyes widened in horror as 3 children appeared, all wearing mismatched clothes that looked out of place. They stared straight at me, their expressions unreadable. "Is she asking questions?" One of them piped up, confidence booming in their tiny frame. "Stay back!" the neighbor barked, and the children fell silent, their eyes darting between the figure and me. The atmosphere grew thick, and the tension felt electric. "What do they know?" I asked, bewildered by this sudden shift. I felt trapped between the neighbor and these strange kids watching me like I was a puzzle to solve. "They know too much," the neighbor said, their voice now softer but tinged with urgency. "Just turn around and walk away. It's for your own good." But I was drawn in. "No, I have to know," I declared. The fear no longer paralyzed me. I was done being afraid. Then one of the kids stepped forward, a grin spreading across their face. "But if you stay, you can join our game." The neighbor's look turned sharp again, and the sunlight seemed to dim around us, drawing my focus back. It was now or never. "Game? What game?" I asked, heart racing. Just then, a scream pierced the air, slicing through the tension like a knife. The scream echoed again, more shrill this time, and it sent a shiver crawling down my spine. I instinctively stepped back, but a firm tug on my arm pulled me forward. I looked to my side and saw one of the children, their grip surprisingly strong for their small frame. "Come on," the child urged, excitement flashing in their eyes. "You don't want to miss it." "What's happening?" I demanded, trying to pull away from the child's grip. "I don't want any part of—" "Stay," the neighbor shouted, voice sharp and commanding. The child froze, their expression shifting, uncertainty creeping in. "Please," I said, my gaze darting between the neighbor and the children. "What's going on? What game?" The screaming abruptly stopped, leaving a deafening silence in its wake. My instincts told me to run, yet something held me back. The house loomed behind me, dark and yet somehow inviting, as if the very walls had secrets to share. "That was just the beginning," the neighbor finally responded, their voice softer but still tense. "If you want to know, you have to be part of it, but it's not for the weak-hearted." "I'm not weak," I said, bolstered by defiance I didn't fully feel. "I just want the truth." The neighbor's eyes narrowed. "Then, come inside." I hesitated, heart racing. Was I really willing to go deeper into this? What if it was a trap? "Come on, it'll be fun," the child insisted, now tugging at my sleeve. Their eagerness felt contagious and terrifying. Before I could decide, the neighbor stepped aside, allowing just enough light to spill out into the entrance. "You have to choose. Will you play?" The remaining two children whispered among themselves, peeking at me through their disheveled hair. I felt the pressure of their anticipation, as if my decision held a weight far beyond my understanding. "Time is ticking," the neighbor warned, impatience creeping into their tone. "You won't get this chance again." Suddenly, the air shifted. I felt a pulse of energy radiating from the house, drawing me in against my better judgment. What was behind that door? "Okay," I said, heart pounding in my chest. "I'm in." The children erupted in gleeful chatter as I stepped forward, crossing the threshold into the darkened home. The door clicked shut behind me with a finality that sent a shiver through me. The inside was dimly lit, shadows dancing along the walls. I squinted into the murky space, trying to catch my breath as the kids circled around, giggling. The neighbor stood by the door, arms crossed, watching me with an inscrutable expression. "What exactly is this game?" I whispered, trying to mask the rising tide of panic. Before I could hear an answer, the wall beside me creaked. I turned just in time to see a door on the far side of the room slowly opening, revealing a staircase spiraling down into darkness. Cold air wafted up, carrying a faint, strange smell. "Time to play," one of the kids announced cheerfully. And then, before I understood what was happening, they were pulling me toward the staircase. Everything inside me screamed to resist, but the allure of the unknown was too strong. That's when I saw it. Something moving in the shadows below. The shadows shifted, and I squinted harder into the murkiness of the staircase. My breath caught in my throat as something large and dark flitted just out of sight. I was about to voice my concerns when a burst of laughter filled the room, breaking the tension like a knife through fog. "Don't be scared," one of the kids said. The other two chimed in, their voices bright and cheerful, completely at odds with the foreboding atmosphere. It did nothing to ease my anxiety. The child holding my arm gave me a gentle jerk, urging me forward. "Let's go." "Wait, can't we just talk about what's down there?" I tried to gain control of the situation. No talking, just playing. Their excitement was palpable. The neighbor remained by the door, arms crossed, just watching with a small smirk on their face. I felt cornered. The laughter mixed with the anticipation of the children created a strange excitement in the room, but it was laced with an undercurrent of dread that I couldn't shake off. I took a hesitant step forward, the wooden stairs creaking under my weight. It felt oddly alive, almost as if it were warning me to turn back. The children surged ahead, their little feet padding softly against the steps, disappearing into the gloom. "Are you coming?" the first child called back, peering over the railing. I nodded, heart racing. "Yeah, I'm coming." As I descended, the cold air thickened, wrapping around me like a heavy blanket. I tried to keep my nerves steady, but the anticipation of what lay ahead gnawed at me. I stepped carefully, each step echoing loudly in the silence. At the bottom of the staircase, the main room opened up into a wide space illuminated by flickering lights, more like shadowy figures dancing along the walls than actual bulbs. In the center stood a large table, draped in a dark cloth, the outline of something bulky taking form beneath it. The smell, the one I had sensed earlier, grew stronger, a mix of damp earth and something acrid. "Welcome to the show," one of the children declared, their wide eyes sparkling with mischief. "What show?" I asked, nervousness creeping into my voice. The kids giggled, running around me like moths to a flame. "You'll see." Before I could ask more, the neighbors stepped forward, their expression shifting to something more serious. "Now you'll find the truth you wanted. The rules are simple. Witness and remember." "What does that mean?" My voice trembled slightly. "Just watch," they replied cryptically. "You'll know soon enough." Just then, a shuffling sound came from beneath the table. I felt my heart race again. This wasn't some innocent game. When I looked back at the children, their faces, once so animated, were now eerily still, eyes fixed on the table in anticipation. "Something's about to happen," one whispered, an edge of excitement creeping into their tone. I didn't have a moment longer to react before the cloth was whipped away, and what lay revealed brought a sharp intake of breath. There, in stark contrast to the children's glee, lay a collection of odd artifacts, items I could barely comprehend. Some were familiar, others foreign and unsettling, and among them, something that made my stomach drop. Then suddenly, everything went dark. I stumbled forward, arms flailing in the darkness, my heart racing. Panicking, I reached out for something, anything, to ground myself. The sudden silence was overwhelming, like being enveloped in a thick fog where nothing could be seen or heard. Then, a soft glow flickered back to life. It illuminated the room, but this time the shadows twisted and contorted unnaturally, morphing into shapes I couldn't quite place. I squinted through the dimness, trying to figure out if I'd imagined the eeriness or if it was real. "Don't be scared," a voice suddenly chirped at my side, making me jump. I turned quickly, half expecting to see one of the children. Instead, it was the neighbor, their features shadowy yet unmistakably amused. "You're missing the fun." Before I could gather my thoughts, the children were back at the table. They seemed unfazed by the darkness, their smiles wide once more. As the flickering light steadied, I realized they were holding small lanterns, beaming eerily in the low light. The children leaned closer to the table where the artifacts lay. My eyes darted back to the assortment of strange items. A rusted key, what looked like a charm bracelet, and a small cracked porcelain doll with a chipped face. Each object stirred a feeling of unease in me, as if they were not just relics, but remnants of something more sinister. "What are those?" I finally managed to ask, my voice shaking. "They're the remnants of the past," one of the kids said, a grin spreading across their face. "They hold secrets." Secrets. The word echoed in my mind. I felt an urge to back away, but my feet felt glued to the spot. I couldn't shake the feeling that each item might tell a story, one not meant for my ears. The neighbor chuckled softly, watching me closely. "Remember the rules," they reminded me, their eyes glinting in the light. "Witness and remember." Just then, the room shifted again. The atmosphere thickened, almost heavy, and there was a subtle shift in the air that sent goosebumps racing across my skin. I glanced at the children, who seemed caught up in some kind of shared excitement, eyes bright with anticipation. Then I noticed something move in the corner of my vision. It was the porcelain doll, its head inching toward me as if being pulled by an invisible string. I gasped and stumbled backward. "That one is special!" One of the children giggled, their laughter sending chills down my spine. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "It can tell stories," they replied with a playful glee. "But only if you listen." Before I could respond, the lights flickered violently. Shadows leaped across the walls like angry specters. My heart pounded. Something was very wrong. I felt trapped, the energy in the room shifting like quicksand. That's when I saw it, a dark shape forming behind the table, moving closer. Panic surged through me. I needed to escape, but the children only laughed, their eyes alight with a terrifying joy. I turned toward the staircase, heart racing. But where was the exit? I couldn't remember how I got down here. The children's laughter echoed, shifting from innocent fun to a menacing chorus, wrapping around me like a vice. Suddenly the dark shape lunged, and I realized that not only was I witness to their game, but I was also the next player. I whipped around, adrenaline spiking, desperate to escape the advancing darkness. My feet finally found traction. I stumbled toward the staircase, but it felt like a labyrinth. The walls closing in, the shadows dancing in mocking delight. A snap echoed from behind me, followed by the soft giggle of one of the children. I dared a glance back, and the porcelain doll had disappeared. Only the flickering light remained where it had stood, a void left in its wake. The laughter twined with a sense of dread that gripped my chest. "Come play with us," another child urged, their voice sweet, yet laced with something sinister that made the hair on my arms stand on end. The urge to flee warred with an inexplicable pull, to turn back and confront whatever was lurking in the dim light. Just as I reached the foot of the stairs, the neighbor's voice called out, calm yet chilling. "The stories have begun, but do you want to hear them? Or are you too scared?" "Stop!" I shouted, my voice cracking. "I need to leave!" But as I turned, I caught sight of a twisted figure emerging from the darkness, an older version of one of the children, its face pale, eyes hollow. No, not a child, a spectre holding the rusted key, gliding effortlessly toward me. "Stay with us," it whispered, a raspy voice that sent a shiver up my spine. The shadows quivered as if alive, reaching toward me with icy fingers. I could feel their energy slowing my movements, sinking me deeper into this night terror. I bolted up the stairs but stumbled as the air thickened. The door at the top slammed shut, seemingly as a physical barrier against any chance of escape. I pressed my body against it, my breath quickening, every ounce of my being urging me to find a way out. "Let me out!" I pounded on the door, but my fists felt weak against the weight of the ethereal darkness pressing in. In a moment of panic, I turned to look back, and the children, their faces now eerily gleeful, stood on the lower level, their silhouettes framed by the faint light. "Witness and remember," they chanted in unison, their voices rising and falling like a haunting melody. I could feel an electric tug in my mind, compelling me to listen, to heed the warnings hidden within the artifacts that lay on the table. "Stop it!" I screamed, but the words felt hollow. My heart thudded in rhythm with their chants as the shadows shifted. I didn't care about the rules anymore. I needed to escape whatever game they were playing. Then, alongside their laughter, I heard a soft, anguished wail that wasn't from the children. It came from the depths of the room, a voice filled with sorrow that resonated deep inside me. My heart sank. I couldn't ignore it. I needed to know. I had to hear the stories they guarded so fiercely. I edged closer to the top step, curiosity battling with terror. Was I willing to sacrifice my freedom for the truth? But that was when I heard it. The door rattled loudly, as if someone or something was banging on the other side, desperate to get in. The shadows around me pulsed with anticipation, ready to unveil whatever secrets lay within. Before I could process what was happening, the truth began to reveal itself in fragments, each one more unsettling than the last. I was seconds away from realizing that something much more sinister than mere stories was unfolding right in front of me. The door shuddered beneath my hands, and I could feel the cold seeping into my bones. Panic clawed at my throat. I glanced back at the steps, the children still standing there, their eyes wide and expectant, as if waiting for something inevitable. The banging grew more insistent. I pressed my ear against the door, heart hammering. "Who's there?" I called. But the sounds continued, muffled and frantic, like someone was locked away and desperate to escape. With no other option, I turned my attention back to the children. Their laughter rang out, a ghostly echo, yet it was underscored by a different kind of sound. A soft thump, like a heartbeat. I sensed a rhythm, almost as if it matched my own. "Witness and remember," they repeated, voices blending eerily together, and I felt myself being drawn in, their chant wrapping around me like a living thing. The shadows quivered in response, as if eager to share their secrets. I could see the table below more clearly now. Old trinkets, dust-covered relics, each one must have a story. An ornate box caught my eye, adorned with faded carvings. I almost felt it calling to me. At that moment, any lingering doubt about my need to know faded, replaced by a burning curiosity. Maybe this was the key. My breath quickened. I could hear the wail again, clearer this time, seeping from the walls. It was a cry that stilled my racing heart. I edged towards the stairs, my legs trembling. The children remained frozen in place, their expressions shifting ever so slightly, revealing more than simple delight. There was something darker lurking behind their eyes, an excitement for what was yet to come. Then, just as I reached the edge of the staircase, I saw a flash of movement in my periphery, a figure creeping closer through the shadows. Panic shot through me. This time, it wasn't the spectral child. It was an adult, a shadowed silhouette that cloaked itself in the darkness. "Let me in!" the voice cried, tinged with desperation. The familiarity unnerved me. It was my neighbor. I knew that voice. "Help me," she begged, and her words sent a chill down my spine. The air felt heavy, suffocating. I turned to look back at the children. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice high-pitched and frantic. "Join us," they sang, and I trembled at the audacity. I needed answers, but they wouldn't come easily. I had stumbled into something far more twisted than I could have imagined, caught between the innocent play of children and the despair of an adult trapped in whatever games had been woven into this house. Suddenly, the banging on the door stopped abruptly, silence enveloping the space like a thick fog. Then a soft whisper permeated the stillness, barely audible. "Find the key," it urged, and at that moment everything shifted. I could feel eyes upon me, the specters watching my every move, and the atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension. I had a choice to make. Trust the whisper and help my neighbor, or confront the children and whatever piece of darkness they held. That was when I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, part of the porcelain doll had reappeared on the table. It was missing its eye, but appeared to glisten in the dim light, as if it was alive, beckoning me closer. Disbelief gripped me as memories of my own childhood flooded back. The choice was becoming clearer, but so were the risks. Whatever I uncovered next might shatter everything I thought I knew. I took a hesitant step towards the table, drawn in by the doll's eerie glimmer. Its empty eye socket seemed to implore me to approach. I could feel the weight of my decision pressing down on me. Was it really a choice? The words of the children echoed in my mind, growing louder, mixing with the lingering cry of my neighbor. I reached for the doll, my fingers brushing against its cold porcelain skin. The contact jolted me. In that moment, a flicker of memory surfaced, playing with dolls as a child, lost in the safety of innocence. But this wasn't the same. This doll felt wrong, steeped in something sinister. "Find the key," the whisper urged again, clearer now. I looked closer at the doll. Was there something hidden? I lifted it, examining every inch. But then it slipped from my fingers, landing with a soft thud on the floor. A chill ran down my spine as I heard a new sound, a key clinking against the table's surface. My heart raced as I looked back at the children. They were watching me, still but alive with expectation. I turned again to the doll. It was now face down on the floor, and I saw it. A small keyhole embedded at the back of its neck. Did the children want me to unlock something? The thought filled me with dread, but I couldn't back away now. I was too far in. Grabbing the doll again, I noticed another movement, this time behind me. "Let me in!" My neighbor's voice rose in desperation, blending into the growing chaos. I spun around. She was still there, pounding against the door. Just as I took a step towards her, the children leapt down the stairs in unison, their faces twisted in a mixture of mirth and malice. "Witness and remember." They cried once more, the chant piercing through the tension. Their eyes glimmered with a hunger that sent a surge of fear through me. My hands tightened around the doll, fingers trembling against the fragile porcelain. "Get away from her!" I shouted, and the children paused, a chorus of giggles erupting from their lips. The sound felt cold, drenched in menace. Then the air shifted again. I realized the door behind me was slowly opening. The shadow of my neighbor fell into the dim light, her face twisted in fear. It was a face I recognized, but something was off. The fear mingled with something else, something darker. "Help me," she urged, but her eyes flickered, and for a brief moment they were not hers. A deeper darkness seemed to lurk beneath the surface. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me. "Come join us," the children chimed, their voices intertwining like a twisted melody. I felt the pull of the doll again, urging me to decide. I clutched the doll tighter, my pulse racing. I could either unlock the secrets tied to the children or help my neighbor, who appeared trapped in more ways than one. Frustration bubbled within me, and just as the choices weighed down my mind, I knew one thing for certain. I had to act fast. Then, from the depths of the house, I heard a faint laughter, dark and unsettling. I had no idea what it meant, but I felt it reverberate through my bones. The time for inaction was over. I had to face whatever was waiting for me in the shadows. I stood frozen with indecision at the foot of the stairs, the porcelain doll clutched tightly in my hands, while the chilling echoes of laughter brushed against my nerves. The faces of the children glimmered in the dim light, eyes bright with mirth masking something more insidious. Their twisted invitation to join in the fun hung in the air like a dark omen. "Help me!" My neighbor's voice sliced through the chatter, desperation pouring into every syllable. I glimpsed her silhouette behind the opening door and felt every instinct urging me to rush to her side. Wouldn't that be the right move? But the children remained barricades, their presence both playful and threatening, with the echoes of their chant wrapped tightly around me. I found my gaze fixed once more on the doll, its empty eye socket looming large in my thoughts. What did it unlock? What relics lay buried beneath layers of forgotten stories? I had to uncover the truth before things slipped any further away from me. Suddenly, my fingers twitched, and with the determination born of desperation, I turned the doll to face me. Cautiously, I brushed my fingers against the keyhole at the nape of its neck. The feel of the smooth porcelain contrasted sharply with my rising anxiety. The children watched with rapt attention, their eyes glinting under the flickering light. A part of me wanted to scream and run, but I knew that unlocking whatever secrets this doll held might be my only way to understand what was really happening here. With a determined breath, I pulled the key from my pocket, the piece of metal reflecting in the dim light. My heart pounded as the whispers grew, swelling around me, urging me on. I knelt and aligned the key with the hole, my fingers trembling slightly as the pieces fit together perfectly. "I have to help her," I shouted, the resolve in my voice startling even me. Still the children laughed, and it cut through my urgency like glass shattering against concrete. With a deep breath, I twisted the key within the doll's mechanism. The action sent a surge of energy through the room, a tremor running through the shadows. The laughter stopped, and a silence thrummed like a taut string waiting to snap. Suddenly, a rush of images swirled before me, faces of neighbors long gone, cries for help entwined with laughter, sacrifices made for games that never ended. Without warning, a bright light burst from the doll, illuminating the room in a blinding white. I held my ground, fighting the dizzying sensations, but in the grasp of that brightness, the shadows blinked into life. From every corner of the room, the voices converged into a single, terrible cacophony. The children, the neighbors, their laughter spiraled into shrieks that threatened to consume me. And somewhere within that chaos, I heard my name. "Let her join," screamed the figures, their faces distorting, revealing hidden malice. Shadows flickered, twisting into the shapes of those taken, of those who could not escape. But I had opened something, and with it came a fleeting glimpse of all that lay beneath the facade of neighborly warmth. I stumbled back, fear fueling my retreat. The glow from the doll began to dim, but the shadows coiled tighter, reaching for me as if tethered by an invisible string. I glanced back at my neighbor, who hovered just beyond the threshold. Hers was the most desperate face of all, her eyes pleading yet haunted. "Stop! You have to let her go," I shouted, the urgency rising in my chest. My heart raced, knowing that I had a choice to make. I could turn away, escaping into the darkened house forever, or I could step into the light beyond the door and reach for my neighbor, risking the wrath of whatever horrors the shadows had summoned. I took a step backward, feeling the walls close in before me. The children's laughter resumed, more sinister than before, wanting me to fail. But I couldn't turn my back on what lay behind me. In that instant, I wrestled with the doll, balancing the key between my fingers while keeping my gaze locked on my neighbor. "Please," I pleaded. The desperation seeped into my voice. "I don't want to play anymore." "That's the thing, you can't leave," the children chimed in unison, their voices carrying an eerie melody. But I seized my resolve. The darkness mustn't win. In one swift motion, I pulled the doll close, holding it in front of me like a shield against their malevolence. I would confront whatever this entity had created. With a deep breath, I lunged toward my neighbor, heart racing as I shouted, "We're leaving together. We refuse to be part of your game anymore." But as I touched the threshold where light met darkness, the air thickened, and the shadowy figure lunged from behind the table, colliding against me with a force that knocked the breath from my lungs. I stumbled backward, feeling the darkness claw at my resolve. Yet, somehow, I could still hear her voice. "You can't leave me." It was filled with urgency, but there was an unfathomable depth, a knowing that reverberated through the air, wrapping around my limbs, urging me to stay in the chaos. The flicker of the light surged back once more, illuminating artifacts strewn across the table and swirling towards me like a gaping maw. Time warped, and I could feel reality stretching, almost breaking under the weight of looming shadows. "Witness and remember," the children echoed, and their laughter crescendoed, threatening to drown me out. But as the darkness enveloped us, the walls of the house groaned, and the piercing wail of desperation flooded my senses. It all morphed into a singular moment, an invitation merging anguish and curiosity, demanding my attention. Whatever I'd unlocked was seeping into me, its stories unfurling like paper in the wind, melding into images and echoes of haunted histories. And that was when I realized, whether I ran or chose to stand, these threads of past and present were now intertwined with my own. Would I ever escape? The thoughts spiraled within me, unsettled fragments drifting through the abyss of uncertainty. Finally, that chilling decision roamed through my mind. To brave the shadows, or to plunge into the reflective light of my own forgotten story. In that late abyss of time, I felt I could transform my fear into a different edge, pushing back against the fabric that held the game together. That's when everything went silent once more.